Let's draw a sunflower like Van Gogh. So the way we're going to start is by drawing the center of the flower first. And Van Gogh uses thick paint when he painted his sunflowers. So he made little brush marks with the paint. So since we're not going to use paint, I have some markers here that I'm going to try to use instead. And I'm going to try to mimic the brush strokes that he made with his paintbrush with my marker. So I'm just going to make these little brush strokes that are actually just little tiny line marks. And you can see I'm not trying to make it perfect. So nothing in art is perfect, and nothing in nature is perfect either. So his sunflowers had a couple different colors in the center, and they kind of went out in stripes. So maybe this might be that part, and then maybe I'll make a little bit of a brown part in the center as well. And then I'll show you how I'm going to blend my markers. So I'm going to use this orange, just a plain orange also, but you can use any colors you want. And I'm going to try to do little brush strokes like I would with a paintbrush too. But I'm going to use my marker. And you can see that the marker kind of makes these little smears and lines. And so that makes it kind of look more like paint, which is cool. Then I'm going to go in here and fill in any white space I have. And the marker kind of bleeds together and makes it look like paint. So you can use any color you want. Sunflowers come in a bunch of different colors, especially the centers. Some are dark, some are light, some have green. So I'm just going to keep adding these little marks with my marker, just like I'm using a tiny paintbrush. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I think I'm done with my center. If I want to, I can even go back in and like add some little dots, because the center of sunflowers have little seeds in them. So if I want to just add some little dots like this, I could do that. That looks kind of cool. Okay, now I'm ready to make my petals. So sunflowers are usually an orangey yellow color. So I'm going to use both, and we'll see what happens. So the first way I'm going to make my first petal is I'm going to draw a curved line like this with my orange, and then I'm going to draw another curved line back, just like that. So it's kind of like a leaf shape. And I'm going to do another one. And I'm going to try to go all the way around with this leaf shape to make my petals. And it's okay if some of my petals are not straight or they're a little bit wonky, because sunflowers are not perfect. Sometimes they have bent petals, or some petals are falling off, or they're crooked. So I'm just going to do my best. I like to use markers because they're such nice bright colors, but you can use crayons as well, or colored pencils, whatever you have around. So another thing I like to use about the markers is remember how I said they kind of bleed in together and look like paint. So if I used orange for the outside of my petals, I could come back in to the petals with the yellow marker, and it's going to drag some of that orange from the petals from like out here into the center of the petal. So it kind of makes it look like brush strokes also. So you can see I'm just using a yellow marker, but it's when I go over that orange, it kind of makes it like striped looking, which really looks like a sunflower petal. Ooh, that made a nice mark. So like I kind of left a space here by accident. I'm just gonna fill that in. I'm just gonna go all the way around. I'm gonna fill that in there. Remember, it's okay if yours doesn't look like mine, because sunflowers look a lot, there are a lot of different kinds of sunflowers and a lot of different shapes and colors. So all of ours will be beautiful. There we go. So any of those little sections that I left undone by accident, I just filled them in too. So here I have my sunflower. If I wanted to, I could go back in maybe with the brown and do like a couple, maybe I just want to do some stripes like this in the petals. You don't have to, but maybe you want to add that just to add some line texture. Kind of trying to use my marker like a paintbrush too. How it starts thicker and then I fling it out to make it get a little thinner towards the edge. And there I have myself a nice sunflower. So if I want to make a background, and I have a little bit of water, I just have this little cup of water here, and I have a paintbrush, and I have my markers that I used. I can go back in, and I started to already draw around here, and I could just make some outlines and some little brush strokes all over the paper. First, I'm just gonna do this just so the sunflower really pops out of the background. So that's why I'm gonna use this dark brown. When Van Gogh made his sunflower paintings, he usually made them on a yellow background because he knew that the color yellow made people feel happy. And that's what he wanted to do. So that's why I used yellow here. And then I'm just gonna use some other yellow and orange colors, and I'm just gonna make just kind of some scribbles, just like I did with the flower itself. Almost like I'm making brush strokes. Just with the marker. So we don't always have paint around. I'm going to show you a cool trick to do with just water. If you're using permanent markers, this won't work. But these are just regular Crayola markers. It doesn't say washable, but it works with these. So I'll show you a trick in a second. Let me just keep going around, adding some more scribbles, almost like brush strokes. And maybe I'll add some more orange out here too. All right, let's see how this works. So now I'm just gonna dip my paintbrush in I have a little cup of water here. Just get it wet. Tap off some of the water. And now I'm gonna go over this with my paintbrush and the water and look at how the marker bleeds together and basically makes watercolor paint. So if you don't have paints at home, you can just do some scribbles with markers and just use some water to make watercolor paint. It looks pretty cool, almost like tie-dye. Ooh, and then when I wet this brown part, it like bleeds out. So it gives it kind of a shadow around the flower, which is neat. And I'm gonna use a lot of water so that I can let it just ooze together. Because I like that look, how it looks painty. There we go, get some more water. So if you ever need to fill up a big space on your paper with color, you could just do a little bit of marker coloring and then use water to spread it around. There we go, I have like this cool orangey paint. My flower paper is kind of curling up, but I can flatten it once it's dry. Put it under a book or something. So you don't have to do it this way, you don't have to add water, but it's just a fun thing if you have a paintbrush to do, because I know it's so much fun to paint and maybe you don't have paint at home. So there we go. I love how this brown looks. How it's like bleeding out. It looks really cool. And then if you want to, you can actually add more colors once this dries a little bit. It's hard to color with the marker on the wet paper, but once it dries a little bit, you could do more and then go over it with water again and bleed more in. So there's a little let's make paint with marker trick for you.